down and do any kind of a tallow or anything with them. This was going to be more of a quicker cook. I wanted to try a hotter temperature. From the last show, we were talking to the gentleman from Texas. He was talking about how he smokes his at a higher temperature. I normally do mine between 190 and 200. He was talking he does his at like 225, and I was just curious. I wanted to see what a 225 smoke would do.
225, I think, is good. I'm okay with it too. I want between 200 and 225 consistently in the chamber. Uh, but he goes a little longer than I do, uh, which I know folks that do. I'm not saying it's a bad or not a bad thing. I think I achieve the same product in 8 to 10 hours, depending on how long it takes to finish it out, versus um, going that long on a smoke. That's almost an old school method in Texas where they go real deep and long on the smoke. So this small brisket, how long did it take you to cook it?
I cooked it. Let's see. I think 9 or 10 hours is what I did on that. Um, like I said, I was. This is more of an experimental brisket. That's why I didn't want to go too big on it. I'm not going to ruin an $80 piece of meat, but I'll trash a small tip of a brisket for no problem at all. But yeah, some of the other pictures in there, you can see the bark starting to form on it about halfway through. Some of the juice is starting to render out through where I had the probes at. Then as we go through some of the pictures, you can see towards the end that we did have a decent little smoke ring penetration. I was expecting more of a penetration with it, but I think the higher temperature may have slowed the penetration down for that smoke ring with just the way a pellet smoker works. So I didn't get
Well,
as
do you think it
much.
was that, or were you rested at room temperature? And hang on,
It was room temperature when I seasoned it and put it on the grill.
I think the closer it is to room temperature, the warmer the meat is. I think the less
Less ring.
ring you're going to find. And I'll tell you that from Slow Bones, they swear by it. All right, there's a picture on the grill. We got her hooked up to the probe. Got some good smoke going. That looks pretty early on, though, right?
Yeah, that's very, very early on. I also did
Okay, yeah. What's that there?
that. That is a
Is that
full
a
piece.
spam?
That is a full piece of spam. It is, and I actually
Yeah.
I took Texan's advice and I trimmed off both sides, and gave it a bit of a rougher surface, and you can definitely see I got some color in that spam.
Yeah,
And
it's not looking bad. How long did you leave the spam on?
the spam I did probably for about 5 hours.
Wow.
It's I put it on about halfway through, so about 5 hours, 4 to 5 hours. But you can see the bark forming on the brisket now. It's starting to get that nice dark, rich color to it. The spam is definitely starting to take a glaze around the outer edges. My wife hates spam. She loved this spam.
Okay, now we're looking at what temperatures, chamber temperatures at this point.
225 or 220 constant.
220 constant, and you like your bark formation?
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. I've got some different barks. I agree with what John was saying. I think that the rub had a lot to do with it on this one. I think the
Um,
pepper content has something to do with it also.
there are those that say that. I just don't know. I've seen bark. It seems like my evaporation point or my airflow uh, influences my bark formation more than anything else. But I'm open to suggestions. Anybody that says anything other. Um, I tell you what, these comments are loading in funny from the top and the bottom. Let's go back to Revolt Republic. Chicken quarters are cheap and quick and quick to learn how to smoke. He is 100% correct. Chicken quarters are cheap, and they're a great thing to smoke. You can do some experiments on them. He's absolutely right. That's about the best suggestion I've seen all night. We've got
Chicken
B.
smokes differently too.
Say again.
Chicken does smoke differently though.
Chicken does smoke different, but it's definitely a product that you can put on that's not going to cost a lot of money and put a good smoke out there to put it out for dinner. B says she's waiting to fall because she's a sissy in the heat. Well, you got to do like John now, B. John set up all night to make that pork happen. And of course, we got Tri-Tip is King. I don't know who that's from. Maybe James. He's a West Coaster. He's going to sell us off on some Tri-Tip, but I'm willing to try some Tri-Tip as well.
Don't knock it till you smoke it.
Okay, well, let's talk about let's go with the elephant in the room. That's the Spam. So it comes off, and what happens with it?
Wrapped in aluminum foil, let it set for a little bit, and just cool in the aluminum foil in the house. That was the best way to keep my wife from trying to eat it. Then it went onto a plate, sliced it. There's some pictures in there of some sliced Spam. It came out really, really, really good. I was surprised. There wasn't any kind of.
What wood chip did you use?
I used a combination. I was actually finishing off the bag that I used for the cheesecake. So this is a hickory apple blend, and that also may be why I didn't get as deep of a smoke ring either, because I was using a hickory and apple blend versus a mesquite for the brisket.
All right. So, question on your thermometer probe, and I'm asking because I don't know. Why is it not more in the center?
It's actually, you really can't tell at that angle. It's actually at about a 45-degree angle, and that's not the primary probe that I'm using. On the back end of that, you can't see it. I have my other probe in there, my Bluetooth one.
Okay.
It didn't save the cook, otherwise I would upload the graph and everything from the cook too. But my good thermometer's on the other side, and it's in the center. I mean, smack dab center in that meat.
Okay. So on the Spam, did you skim that's like the top layer off?
I did. I took a very thin layer on both sides. I didn't do the outer edges. I just took the top and the bottom off, the biggest section, and I smoked those also. Those have already been eaten in this picture. But yeah, I cooked it like that under the of what Texan said of doing that. Maybe the rougher surface would help with coloring and penetration. I don't know if it's so much changed the penetration. It may have, but it definitely helped with coloring.
Did you put anything on the Spam or just let it smoke raw?
Nope, that is just straight smoke. I went with a low sodium Spam versus a standard Spam. I'm not big on the salt, but I went with a lower sodium. I find that the lower sodium meats seem to cook a little bit better like this. Even if I do a corned beef brisket, I'll do a corned beef low sodium, and it seems to cook a little bit better than if I go with the standard one.
Okay, so what did we get out of smoke on it? Did it taste just like Spam that had been grilled?
No. You could definitely taste the smoke. You just couldn't see the smoke. It was the same color all the way through, but it had a great flavor to it. Still retained some of the juiciness. So, like I said, my wife's not a big fan of Spam, and by not a fan, she don't eat it. But she was actually wanting to do a couple of these at one time and chop them up into small cubes and do them in something like umami or some fried rice or something like that. It came out so good.
Now I know people like eat Spam at different temperatures. What was your temperature on
it? So I didn't probe the Spam since it's already cooked anyways. I'm not real concerned about temperature. If I cook Spam, I'll throw it in the pan sliced up just to get a crisp edge on it. This came off the grill. It was probably 190, 200 degrees. And then it rested in the house for about a half an hour. So probably right around 150.
And I'm sorry, you may have already said, but how long did you let it smoke?
About 4 to 5 hours.
Oh, okay.
And that was at your 225? Is that correct?
As at 220, yeah.
220.
Yeah. I can't get the halves. I can do 220 and 230. It won't give me that 225. But then I also smoked it on the right side of the chamber, which is closest to the stack where it's going to be the warmest. And I'm going to get the most smoke flow over the meat at that point.
Cool.
Okay, so did any of the Spam survive? Was it all?
No. There was no surviving Spam.
you said Miss Big Ron's not a big fan of Spam, but she likes this Spam.
She liked this Spam. She is not a big fan of Spam, and by not a big fan, she will not eat it, and she ate this.
Okay, I'm going to call that a win. Range, did you ever go back and re-smoke yours to get a better run on it, or you just gonna have to wash and try another day?
No, it was a busy weekend. We had a family party, and there was you probably saw my live. I was trying to do a live of the drag show and car show here in town, and it was chaos. I didn't have a chance to throw anything on, but this gives me hope. I still think I'm going to try some burnt ends. Honestly, I think I'm going to cube it up, throw it in an aluminum tray, maybe throw some kind of brown sugar or something on there, and try to make some kind of a burnt end side dish or something.
Okay, no, I'm interested in that. I'm also interested in using it maybe in fried rice. I thought that was a good idea on the Spam. All right, let's go
Yeah,
back to
that could be really good.
let's go back to our bride. That's the brisket. We're talking about how good the Spam was, but there's a brisket on this grill. How did we come out with that? Did our bark turn good?
Yeah, bark turned good. Good flavor to the bark. Like I said, some of the other pictures you can see some smoke penetration. They definitely got into the meat. Good flavors throughout.
I'll be honest with you, I'm having trouble getting to your pictures here. Maybe this one is it. Let's see. No, I don't see any of the finished product cut. But that's okay. I mean, but it was a good brisket. You were able to pull out the you had a smoke ring, you had bark, had smoke all the way through.
Oh yeah, very good, very good. Give me just 1 second here, Joe.
All right. And folks, we are a little bit short on content because we just did a show on this on Wednesday. We knew we were going to be a little short on this one, which is all good because it actually backs up here in 4 minutes. The president is going to address the nation, and we're going to run that through and put the video and audio up here on the show. Might probably have some things to talk about once he's done, but that's probably going to take up our second hour on this show. But you know, I want to go back and talk about. We talk about brisket a lot. We talk about beef. I'm in Texas, and that's all you're gonna hear me say: beef, 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 beef. If it's a rib, it needs to be beef. If you're smoking, it needs to be beef. And I'm going to stand by that. But John's proven that you can take a pork roast or a pork butt, and you can smoke that into be something that's actually delicious, and that if you have guests, they're going to love. Um, Revolt Republic brings up an excellent idea. You get the cheap thighs, chicken thighs. Smoke some wings on your grill. There's a lot of things you can do without spending $70-$80 on a piece of meat to smoke it. Now, a tri-tip is a much smaller piece than a brisket. I think it's very popular out west. I've personally never smoked a tri-tip, but it is something that I will be smoking soon because I'm curious about it. But also, Jason, you smoke tri-tips often, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 a year. I'll smoke them, but it's probably one of my favorite cuts of beef, to be honest with you. If you do it right, it's a really good cut of beef.
Well, tell me why it's one of your favorite cuts.
I think correct me if I'm wrong, it's a sirloin and is it prime rib in there? And somebody tell me what, I don't know the cuts of meat, but there's 3 different cuts of meat that go into the tri-tip, and they're all very good cuts of meat. Like I said, when you the grains run opposite, so you'll have grains running one way on one side of the kind of the boomerang look of a tri-tip, and the grains running the other way, and that's just from the cut of meat. But it's not a cheap cut of meat either. It's I think I had a 3-pound tri-tip, and I think I spent $70 on it. So it's not cheap, but
actually, that's quite a bit more expensive than a brisket.
I also live in Minnesota. Keep that in mind.
Touch-eyed cows up there.
Yeah, spendy beef up here. No, but I think you'll really enjoy it, Joe. If you do it, you're going to be hooked on it.
Well, now I'm taking pause. I don't know if I can afford to be hooked on it at $60 for 3 pounds. That's quite expensive. What's your experience with it in Idaho, Steve? I know you do it a lot. James, you're familiar with it as well. What's your experience with it, Steve?
That one I smoked about a month ago or so. It was awesome. That's actually the first time I ever smoked a tri-tip, and I would totally do it again. It came out well. I'm going to change how I do it. I made the mistake. I think I put a little bit of olive oil on it and then put my spice on. I tried to use the olive oil as the binder, and I think I made a tragic mistake. It was still good, and I still got a really good smoke ring, but I think I missed out on some of the flavor. And so next go around, it's just going to be pepper, salt, maybe a little bit of garlic, and that's it. Just see how she goes.
Steve, I use W sauce as a binder.
That's good to know.
Yeah, that seems to work. I use W sauce on pretty much everything for a binder.
You're talking about Worcestershire?
Yeah, I call it W because I can't pronounce
Yeah,
that.
I probably should call it W as well.
Worcestershire.
Is that in Massachusetts?
But no, it's a great binder.
I'll have to try that too, because it is awesome. And Joe, I'm telling you, once you smoke one, and I don't know, you might be able to find one at a little bit more reasonable cost down where you're at, down in cattle country, but it's pretty tasty.
We're definitely going to give it a shot. I'm not afraid of using oils as a binder. They do work well. I think when you use an olive oil, in particular olive oil, you do need to come up a little bit on your temperature. You want to get more of a rapid evaporation effect when you've got olive oil on the meat. I tend to see have a lack of bark growth with olive oil. Now, vegetable oils seem to do better than olive oil. I've never tried avocado oil, but I think it might be the same since it has such a high smoke temperature that you're not reaching those type of temperatures in there. And what you want to be able to do is evaporate any moisture on the surface of that meat, evaporate it away. If you're not evaporating it away, you're stopping the smoking process of pushing smoke deep into the meat, pulling it in, and you're also stopping the bark formation that should be occurring there if you don't achieve the evaporation. Still get a tasty piece of meat. You still get to taste something that you can't get at a restaurant necessarily, but you're not getting the process is not happening, is what I'm trying to say, if you don't achieve some evaporation. But let me go to James. James is screaming tri-tip. He's screaming tri-tip in the comments over here. So I want to hear some James comment on a tri-tip.
Well, like I said, my experience with smoking is fairly limited, but one of the things that I did try to do my first year in college off by myself was I went and bought a tri-tip.
Hey,
And they
folks,
had
let's go to the presidential address. Sorry,
Yep.
just popped up.
I spoke with him last night. I'm grateful. He's doing well, and Jill and I keep him and his family in our prayers. We also extend our deepest condolences to the family of the victims who was killed. Corey was a husband, a father, a volunteer firefighter, a hero, sheltering his family from those bullets. We should all hold his family and all those injured in our prayers. Earlier today, I spoke about an ongoing investigation. We do not know the motive of the shooter yet. We don't know his opinions or affiliations. We don't know whether he had help or support or if he communicated with anyone else. Law enforcement professionals, as I speak, are investigating those questions. Tonight, I want to speak to what we do know. A former president was shot, an American citizen killed, while simply exercising his freedom to support the candidate of his choosing. We must not go down this road in America. We've traveled before throughout our history. Violence has never been the answer. Whether it's with members of Congress of both parties being targeted and shot, or a violent mob attacking the Capitol on January 6th, or a brutal attack on the spouse of former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, or information and intimidation on election
Because sitting
officials,
at a desk is way
or
worse.
the kidnapping plot against the sitting governor, or an attempted assassination on Donald Trump. There's no place in America for this kind of violence, for any violence ever. Period. No exceptions. We can't allow this violence to be normalized. You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down. We all have a responsibility to do that. Yes, we have deeply felt strong disagreements. The stakes in this election are enormously high. I've said it many times that the choice in this election we make in this election is going to shape the future of America and the world for decades to come. I believe that with all my soul. I know that millions of my fellow Americans believe it as well. And some have a different view as to the direction our country should take. Disagreement is inevitable in American democracy. It's part of human nature. But politics must never be a literal battlefield, and God forbid, a killing field. I believe politics ought to be an arena for peaceful debate, to pursue justice, to make decisions guided by the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. We stand for an America, not of extremism and fury, but of decency and grace. All of us now face the time of testing as the election approaches. And the higher the stakes, the more fervent the passions become. This places an added burden on each of us to ensure that no matter how strong our convictions, we must never descend into violence. The Republican convention will start tomorrow. I have no doubt they'll criticize my record and offer their own vision for this country. I'll be traveling this week making the case for our record and the vision, my vision of the country, our vision. I'll continue to speak out strongly for our democracy, stand up for our Constitution and the rule of law, to call for action at the ballot box, no violence on our streets. That's how democracy should work. We debate and disagree. We compare and contrast the character of the candidates, the records, the issues, the agenda, the vision for America. But in America, we resolve our differences at the battle box. You know, that's how we do it, at the battle box, not with bullets. The power to change America should always rest in the hands of the people, not in the hands of would-be assassin. You know, the path forward through competing visions of the campaign should always be resolved peacefully, not through acts of violence. You know, we're blessed to live in the greatest country on earth, and I believe that with every soul, every power of my being. So tonight, I'm asking every American to recommit, to make America, think about it. What's made America so special? Here in America, everyone must be treated with dignity and respect, and hate must have no safe harbor. Here in America, we need to get out of our silos, where we only listen to those with whom we agree, where misinformation is rampant, where foreign actors fan the flames of our division to shape the outcomes consistent with their interests, not ours. Let's remember, here in America, while unity is the most elusive of goals right now, nothing is more important for us now than standing together. We can do this. You know, from the beginning, our founders understood the power of passion. So they created democracy that gave reason and balance a chance to prevail over brute force. That's the American we must be. An American democracy where arguments are made in good faith. An American democracy where the rule of law is respected. An American democracy where decency, dignity, fair play aren't just quaint notions, but living, breathing realities. We owe that to those who come before us, to those who gave their lives for this country. We owe that to ourselves. We owe it to our children and our grandchildren. Look, let's never lose sight of who we are. Let's remember we are the United States of America. There is nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together. God bless you all. May God protect our troops.
All right, that
Kind of an odd closing.
Yeah. And what was he talking about, the battle box?
I don't know, but if I'm going to the battle box, I'm going to take me a box of cartridges as well.
And my AR-15. Good grief.
I was waiting for him to.
And he's reading a teleprompter.
At
Yeah,
least he-
I was curious to what the whole purpose of this little address was, and I think it's just try to steal some of the limelight and some political clout from the situation that happened yesterday.
Well, let's be honest. He's worried now because this just elevated Trump's possibility of winning dramatically. He's nervous. He's nervous that he's going to lose. I actually watched some polling data not long before I jumped on here. And this kid, I don't know what his political affiliations. He actually sound pretty open, both sides. And Trump was way ahead on all the polling data that he had found for this upcoming election, way ahead. And he even brought this was, I think he posted a video this morning because he mentions the rally and the assassination attempt. He's like, all this is pre-assassination attempt. He's like, I have a feeling that that's even going to go greater in Trump's favor come election time. And I agree that iconic picture of him standing up with the flag in the background, that's That's going to be a forever image, forever, an iconic image for perseverance for this country. I think it's awesome.
Well, and the last time they tried to assassinate Republican Reagan, he won all but one state. And I think they're afraid of another scenario like that.
Yeah, but that was at the beginning of his term. I don't know how much of that assassination attempt held over to his popularity in the second election which is the one you're talking about. His second run was the landslide. So I don't know how much the assassination had to play in that. But I do agree in this that if Trump plays this right, this will carry him over the finish line. I do think he need to come out hard. He needs to come out unifying. We need to be unified as Americans, and I'm for that. I don't think Trump is the guy. I mean, Biden is the guy to do it. Don't think he's done it once. I don't think he's tried to do it. I think the only way he wins is keeping us divided. But I also believe that even he and his advisors know that after yesterday, any chance of a victory is slipping away.
And Trump's a frickin' baller. After getting shot at with his ear, portion of his ear missing. He's
okay, hold up. The man didn't get shot at. He got shot.
Okay,
There
you're
was
right.
blood,
You're right.
blood coming from his ear from a bullet contact.
Well, as CNN, as Babylon B said, Trump clumsily falls into a bullet passing by. He's a baller, dude. He's like, I'm gonna go to the fights, dude. Baller move. And I'm telling you, he's gonna get some kudos from a lot of folks from him standing up. If any other president did that, other than maybe Roosevelt, right? He got shot in the chest. He's like, I'm gonna finish my damn speech. That doesn't happen very often. There's not a lot of people with that kind of resilience. It sucks that we had some casualties. There's that firefighter, former fire chief that passed away. That sucks. That sucks a lot. But I don't know. This is a big turning point, I think, for the United States. And I spent way too much time on Twitter yesterday. You guys probably noticed. It's an event we probably should be journaling and paying attention to, because I think there's a lot of stuff that's going to come from this.
Well, interestingly enough, and I always try to double check if I can, stuff that I read on the internet. Our good friend Harry Sisson, he had posted yesterday that the guy was Republican, and I was like, I gotta go check. And sure enough, he is registered Republican. So that makes me wonder what was going on. And I'm not saying that it's right. By no means it's not right. No, I mean, I don't care who you are. Don't do that shit. But I'm like, what was your motive?
Well, he also donated to progressive causes, and it is a common tactic for Democrats. So you saw this in 2022, where the Democrats would
okay. I did not know that.
Primaries. They'll switch over for the primaries and vote Republican, and then they'll switch back over and vote Democrat in the actual election. So it's pretty easy to switch. So yeah, I don't know how much stock I put in his party affiliation.
I like your plate.
Looks muy picante.
Yeah, he cut that live feed off. Pink plate.
Yeah, you guys, what do you guys think is going to happen at the RNC? You have any?
I don't know anymore.
I've already seen reports coming out that supposedly the Secret Service is not stepping up security at the RNC.
Well, I guess Biden, like the Secret Service, the lady who's in charge of the Secret Service, she's off on some conference in another country, and yeah, Biden has denied additional secret security or Secret Service. The denial happened several weeks ago, but yeah.
So there's a little misconception there I think on the Secret Service. So I've done Mike Pence, McCain, and I think one of the Bushes. So let's say they're coming to your city and you're in law enforcement. I would get a phone call literally 24 hours that this person is showing up for whatever. And the Secret Service puts a butt ton of work onto the local law enforcement. The Secret Service basically manages the general location around the politician coming. The perimeter was our responsibility. So I think it's even the traffic route taken from the airport to the location, that was done by our state patrol. So I think there's a lot put on local law enforcement when these visits come. So it's not just all on Secret Service. So, and the amount of time they give us to prep for it is literally minimal. And I get the surprise tactic to it to get somebody to come, but in the same breath, you know, when you're looking at a dignitary coming to your city and you have 24 hours to make it safe, it's not all on Secret Service is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Most of the security is taken care of by the local PD, but it seems like it would have been a good idea for Biden to, at least as a good faith gesture, offered more Secret Service, because Trump had asked for it a couple weeks ago, and he was denied, just like the Democrats denied RFK Secret Service. So he's having to shell out millions of dollars for his own security.
Did you guys think that the response from the Secret Service detail was a little disheveled? Like, I understand that it was like an emergency, right? And sometimes your brain doesn't work the way it's supposed to in an emergency, but you could hear all the conversation from the mic, from the podium. It was all still, recording the audio, and it just seemed kind of disheveled to me. Like, there was chaos, and they were assessing the situation. But I kind of would think in my mind, or at least the way I perceive the Secret Service, is like the best of the best. And they're practicing and drilling for situations just like this. And in my mind, I was thinking, why isn't it going smoother and more systematic and regimented to get him to the car? What do you guys think?
I agree with you, Steve. And I watched it. I've been working my ass off the last 3 days, so I haven't had much time to look. But what I watched was I think I listened to the tape, and there was definitely more than one shot that rang out. And I think I counted 5. But anyway, the thought that I had was the response to the moment. I get tackling him, covering him. So you got cover and you got concealment. The thing that I thought lacked was the pushback. I wanted to see 15 guns surrounding that pile, and I saw one from and I mean all directions. That's the part that I thought was lacking. Was the cover was good, but the aggressive response was bad. If this was an up close and personal shot, you gotta have an aggressive response to it, as well as a suppressive response. I think they got the suppressive response fine. I did not like I want more weapons around the ex-president there in all directions.
And if you watch some other videos, there are some other videos. I think it's called the Cat Team, where they're all tacked out in black gear, and then some dudes in some OD stuff came up as well. So that was pretty quick. As soon as they got the president down, it was before he left the podium. There were some dudes packing some heat up there. But you got to watch more video than what CNN was showing.
Yeah. And I've got some opinions on that. I think overall the Secret Service did a pretty good job. I won't talk about them leaving a vantage point unchecked, 150 meters away from where the president, straight line of sight from where the president's speaking. I think there might have been there's a problem with that. But they're trained on these high profile protectees. Is that Trump did exactly what he was supposed to. He went down. They went and covered his body. They've got vests on. They're literally they're there to take a bullet for the president at that point. If the shooting were to continue, they call it bunkering him. And they did bunker him. If you'll listen to the audio, you'll hear these earpieces that the Secret Service is wearing. This is what it's for. They hear that the shooters engaged and down. So you hear that one of them announced to everyone else the shooter's down. That's when they start to prepare him to get him on his feet. but they're also waiting on that the bus is that they call it the bus, but his vehicle's ready to go. So they have to go wait for a vehicle to get there. That they don't move him until break that cover in the bunker they have until they have him, a place to take him to cover again. And I've also been in a debate today about the female Secret Service agent that you see as they come down the stairs. She's literally hugging his chest. She's got him kind of wrapped up, and she's putting her body next to his body from underneath his arm across and her head across his chest. That is the proper way. She's covering his vital organs so that she takes a shot instead of him. He wasn't very cooperative. If he'd been more cooperative, they would have had his head down, and you would have had Secret Service agents with their torso covered with ballistic body armor, is basically covering everything that you could damage him with to get him to the car. So I think Secret Service did a pretty good job. I don't know that they did a great job on covering that vantage point. I haven't done a lot. I've done 2 details, one in the Army, one as a cop on a high profile protectee or dignitary. I do know that they'll check roof accesses to make sure they're locked, and then they'll there's a timeline before the dignitary or the protectee is going to be exposed. There's a timeline that they go back and they check these again shortly before. If they don't have them locked and blocked and checked, then they actually put someone there to watch it to prevent and deny access to vantage points for taking a sniper shot, which it clearly didn't happen in this case. But I don't see a lot of fault in the Secret Service. I think they handled it well. They got there very quickly. They bunkered him up. They assessed him. They were there prepared for medical care, even in that bunkered position on the stage. And we did see heavy guns. You had the heavy guns that were your left and right flank, but one guy stayed in the front. But he did cover. He did covered well. You did have your cat team that I think was moving around in other places we couldn't see the camera. So I'm not going to fault them too much on that. What I saw, I was pretty. I had some confidence in. I do not have confidence in leaving the vantage points unchecked and exposed.
Yeah, and that is something I had a question about because there was only one building next to that. Like if you look at the aerial, there's one building. It's a big building, granted, but you see a video where people are shouting. I don't know if they came with him or they knew him from town, but they're shouting the guy's name like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Get down! What are you doing?" That went on for about 45 seconds. Like you would have thought that would draw someone's attention. And when you only have one building or one rooftop to secure, it seems like they should have been watching that. Like it takes a while for him to climb up there and get set up. But one question I did have was what's up with the shoes? Because Trump was saying, "Let me put my shoes on." Like, did they get pulled off? Did they fall off? Is that procedure? What's up with that?
It's not procedure, but it's not uncommon that the man goes down and people are jumping on top of him that they kick the shoe off. So I don't see anything in that.
Yeah,
They
those
were
are just
probably-
like slip-on penny loafers.
No, they were probably those gold Nikes or whatever that everybody's trying to
Yeah.
buy.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to leave them behind. They're worth a lot of money.
They're like $14,000 shoes. He wasn't going to leave that shit behind.
So I have a thought, and this might sound kind of stupid, but I've been pondering it for quite a few years now. Why, when these dignitaries go out and they speak, are they setting the stage up? You could harden that stage pretty quick. You could make a cover position pretty easily. And I look at, you have somebody like Trump who probably has a lot of people that want to see him assassinated. You put him out on a pedestal. You can make that pedestal safe. You can make that stage safe. Why aren't they doing that? That's the one thing that, and I'm tying this into like when we harden schools and we keep kids safe. Why isn't that same philosophy being approached to a person with people that want to see him not alive? Beyond somebody throwing their body in front of a bullet, why not get in front of it? And it's just a thought that I had that I think there is a way to make that presentation both publicly attractive, that they can speak their mind and they can do their rally and they can talk, but in the same breath, you can get in front of a threat by putting some tools there to prevent shots like this from a long ways away. Just thinking out loud, I just don't understand why they're not going that direction.
You know,
I
it's
agree
funny.
with you on the point. Well, real quick, I agree with you on that point because I seen a map of how the stage was done and the step or the rafters behind him to the left and to the right, that the line of sight was obscured just a touch, maybe enough to where the shooter didn't have a good line of sight, not a perfect line of sight, but good enough. But there was a shot that they put out where you see one of the stands just barely gets in the line of sight of the shot. I think you're absolutely right. If they just move that literally left, right, whichever way you're facing it over, he doesn't have a clear line of sight of President Trump. And also, I give kudos to the officer. I think this is confirmed, where officer came up onto the roof, distracted the shooter. I didn't have his weapon out, just was climbing up the ladder. Shooter put a rifle to his face. Officer came back down, and then the hastily shots were hit, and then the sniper took him out. So I give the cop some kudos of going up there, even if he did or did not know what was going on. He went up there and had a rifle pointed in his face, and probably got shocked by that, came back down the ladder, and then went back up. But then by that time, the shooter was already taken out by the sniper. But I agree with you, Jason. If they would have moved the stand to the left a little bit more, you obscure that line of sight of President Trump.
So, Jason, one of our guys went on to work for Secret Service and to Clinton's detail, and I actually asked him that one time. Accessibility. They want it to appear that in that case the president, or in this case the former president, is accessible. Not that he actually is, but it's the visual of accessibility. I'm like that make because look what they do for the Pope. I mean, they put these ballistic panels up. But it is, to answer your question, that's what I was told. Accessibility.
I was going to say something along those lines, John, about the stage. I know for when they're in the hotel room and stuff, they have portable bulletproof glass they put in front of sliding glass doors, and I think that may be what we're going to probably start seeing happen now is large sheets of glass go in front of the president so he can still be seen, but he'll be somewhat protective. And Vet, to what you said, so one of two things happened: either that cop went up on that roof and saw him and didn't make a radio call, or that cop went up on that roof and they ignored his radio call. So one of the two things happened, because if a radio call went up, they had somebody on a roof outside the perimeter with a gun, everything should have been shut down.
Yeah, I would have thought that if it did go out, Trump would have been off stage in a hurry, right? They would have ushered him off the stage and canceled the event right away. It's still, I feel like there was a excuse me, there was some kind of a lapse in security protocols there that probably should have been addressed. But I wasn't there. I'm not part of the detail. I don't know what SOPs were missed or not written at all.
Jason, you said you've dealt with this before. Does Secret Service monitor the local police station, so if that call went out, the Secret Service would hear it?
I was just going to say that when Pence came, there was a delay in communication between law enforcement and Secret Service. So it could have been a communication thing. Again, you guys are telling me stuff that I'm hearing for the first time, but from my experience, we're not, law enforcement's not tied into the Secret Service channel. So it was basically, I was the lieutenant in charge of law enforcement. They would notify me, then it would be a phone call to the agent in charge. So that's a lot of time there. So maybe one thing they could do is everybody get on the same radio channel and work as a team versus these two separate teams. And trust me, Secret Service does a great job. They don't fuck around. They come in and they do this and that, but their scope, from what I've been involved in, was more close up, and law enforcement was more of the wider range perimeter stuff. That's what I've seen on details that I've been involved in. So take it for, and I also want to, I remember when the Pope was in a parade and he was in a ballistic bubble. I'm not talking, it doesn't have to look like that. Yeah, it doesn't have
The
to look like that.
Pope-mobile. Yeah.
Just take away line of sight, take away, areas of threats, provide cover on that stage, and you can make it look good and also be protective. But anyway, again, just a thought.
I give a little bit of the delay to get him off the stage to Trump himself. Him hearing, I mean, he's underneath the pile. Everybody's protecting him. He hears them say the shooter's down, and the man's sharp. He probably got up and, he was like, no, I'm going to, take this moment to show that I am strong and nothing's going to stop me. And, and he did his displays, with his fists and doing all that, which maybe caused a little bit of delay. And then the fact that he was asking for his shoes, that could have been I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Just, the adrenaline rushing, the whole, I just got shot at, mentality. And it's just something simple that he just focused on, like, oh, I need my shoes. It just drew him to a calmness, and he put on the shoes, and then he went on about his business and, did that nice display, which is iconic. That picture of him at the end of the stage with his fist up, the American flag with the crane overhead, that's going to be like you guys were talking about earlier with the Reagan, with the Secret Service agent with the Uzi. It's going to be iconic forever, for decades.
It also doesn't help that Trump's like, what, 6'5"? He's tall. And so, I mean, a lot of those agents might have been struggling with just his size because he's a big dude.
That is true. He is. You don't realize how tall he is until he was towering over his own detail. It's just like, wow, that man's pretty tall. He's literally heads and shoulders above everybody else. That's crazy.
Well, look how big Barron is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's a tall kid. Barron is for sure.
He's almost 6'8", I think is what they said.
Something like that. Yeah, I don't know. Is he 6'8", really?
Can you imagine buying that kid's suits? Holy smokes.
He's towering his dad.
I tell you what, folks, we're going to cut the smoke show, unless anybody's got anything else to add to this. We're going to cut the smoke show a little bit early tonight, just because we interrupted with Biden and kind of changed our topic of what this show's normally about. But we will do an after party. Give us about 15 minutes after the stream ends and catch us on X. We'll kick up an after party, and we can take the discussion any way, anywhere, any place anybody else wants to go.
6'9" to be specific.
6'9". That's pretty damn tall. That's pretty damn tall.
I see he just posted, Barron did, a message from my dad. Pretty cool.
So do I talk about tri-tip in the after party?
You know what? Let's talk about tri-tip in the after party. I think John wants everybody in the studio to stick around for a minute, but folks, we are gonna call this a show.
I just picked some peppers for the smoke for my peppers and
I don't
stuff.
need talking.
Yeah, I've got
You don't like him?
some smoking more.
And some pretty pink plates.
Yeah, we saw the plate.
I refuse to answer on the grounds of made attempt to criminal.
You got any business?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of attempt to criminal.
You have any profession?